Hello and welcome to 60 Minutes with Scottish Self-Build and Renovation. Thank you very much for joining us this evening. My name is Gavin Esselmont. I'm delighted to be welcoming our guests this week is Caroline and Thomas Lawrenson of TL TechSmart. But before I do, I just want to make sure that everybody can hear us and see us if you're watching us on the webinar. So let us know by just giving us a wee thumbs up in the comments field, or better still, just let us know where you're joining us from. There's people watching us from all over the UK, sometimes abroad as well, so it'd be great to understand where you're at, and we'll give you a wee shout out during the broadcast. So if you have any questions during this program, just again, put it in the comments field. We're streaming on YouTube and Facebook. There is a comments field in each of them, so just please put in any comments. It could be about your project, or it could be about what you've heard, and we'll address them during the program. And finally, this program is being recorded, and again, it's on YouTube and Facebook. So if you're got anything specific, maybe take it offline, but certainly we'll address what we can during this program. So this week we are exploring home tech, which I'm personally excited about. I love home tech. I've got very, very basic home tech in my house, but a lot of people have TVs getting switched on. They've got, even curtains getting opened up, which blows my mind completely. So I'm pretty basic in here in terms of the whole kind of home tech, but it is such an important topic to get right. A lot of these things are installed retrospectively, but if you get the planning right at the very, very start, then you can actually save yourself quite a bit of cash, and you can get really good results. So our experts that we're welcoming along this week is TL TechSmart, and we've got Caroline and Thomas. So I'm going to share them on the screen. Good afternoon.
Hi.
Hello.
How are you guys doing?
All right.
Good. Yes, thank you for having us. We've just had a busy running about, taking the kids to all their activities, which have started back, which is lovely.
It's good to know that things like it's judo they've gone to, isn't it, this afternoon? It's good that that's starting back, because it brings a bit of, I guess, normality back to the kids as well as adults. Adults will maybe get a bit of peace as well. And are they excited to be back? Are they excited to be back?
Oh yeah, sorry, I missed that. Yes, yeah, they were really excited. Yes, my son's judo suit has shrunk, or either he's grown a lot. To put it on, I was like, oh yeah, that's not good to say. Oh well.
How old are
they? 12 and 7.
Okay, so they're probably into all sorts of different activities, or are they both doing judo?
They both do the judo, yeah. They both really enjoy it, yeah.
Brilliant. And where's that they do that at?
It's in Inverurie, so there's a sports centre there called the Geary Sports Centre, so that's where the club is based.
Okay, so that's not too far from you guys. You're in Rothinorman?
Yes, yeah. So it's not too far for us, about 10 miles.
How long do they do judo for? I mean, that's quite a high impact sport to be doing. I mean, how long can they actually do that before they're knackered?
Do you know, it's really interesting. So the training sessions normally would have been about 45 minutes to an hour. They're a little bit shorter now because they have to allow time for cleaning between the different age groups, so to clean the equipment and everything. But an actual judo match, in competition, it's actually very short.
Okay.
It's like 5 minutes, but when you watch the professionals, it's just phenomenal how much power and energy that they put into those minutes. It's so focused.
And do they get anything at school? I mean, why does someone just choose to get into judo? I mean, what's the conscious decision that's gone on there to get into judo?
Do you know, I just think it's a really nice sport because, it's not just about, the fitness aspects. They have their kind of code of conduct. So a lot of it's about being respectful and helping your friends, and then they get the fitness side as well. So yeah, we just thought it was a nice all-round sport. They did a little taster of it when they were at summer camp ages and ages and ages ago, and yeah, just loved it. So then we decided that we'd sign them up to do it regularly.
Fantastic. I guess it'll it'll burn off all those calories and burn off all the sweeties and all the rest of it. And you'll probably get a good couple of hours out of them tonight. We'll be giving it
early night tonight, yeah.
Brilliant. So we're probably not here to talk about judo, but that's all very interesting. We're here to talk about home tech. Just tell us a little bit about TL Tech.
Yeah, so TL Tech formed a few years ago. We specialise in smart home technologies. And what we like to do is help people get the best out of technology. So a lot of it is around getting to know the person and their home and their family, and then finding solutions that work for them, based on their budgets and their lifestyle and what it is that they want to achieve. So it's very much a very tailored approach that we take.
I guess the world that we live in now, everything's kind of connected to the internet. So it's quite timely that you guys are kind of helping, getting involved in the tech. And it's not just young, middle-aged, it's actually right across all the generations. People are really thinking about this. And I guess with, older houses, etc., I suppose the retrofit options are there. But one of the things that we're probably going to be talking about tonight is getting early into the planning process and making sure that, whatever your life is, if you're going to be, making your house future-proof, you really want to be talking about tech very early on with either the architect or getting a specialist involved. And do you guys get involved? I guess you guys work very, very closely with the likes of the architects.
Well, the majority of what we've done so far has been retrofits, as you say, but we could certainly get involved with architects and get, because as you say, the best idea is to get in as early as possible, because you'll get a better system to do what you want, better future-proof, and save yourself money in the long run.
Yeah. Good. And so, because there's so much to talk about and there's so many different things involved in this arena, you guys have kindly put a wee presentation together, which is going to take off a bit of pressure in terms of the information overload part. And this is obviously being recorded, so people can watch this after and then just kind of take little parts of it and kind of understand it a bit more. So what we're going to do is slightly different this week. We're going to present on screen. Obviously, people listening to this on a podcast won't be able to see the presentation, but Thomas actually talked through it, which makes it a lot easier to listen to on the go. So I am going to share the screen, hopefully, and we're just going to run the presentation. If there's any questions, again, it could be about your project or it could be about what you hear, just pop them in the comments field and we'll pick them up in the end. So I am going to share the screen and play the presentation.
The question we get asked a lot by people doing major home renovations or a new build is whether they should include hardwired network connections throughout the home. As with all questions, there is no one right answer, and the best solution for you will depend on a number of factors. The most likely scenario is that you will end up with a hybrid system, where as much that is practical is hardwired with a wireless network to support mobile and temporary devices. This presentation will briefly cover some of the key questions to help you decide on your approach and some of your thoughts. As I mentioned, there is no simple answer to the question of wired versus wireless, except that you're unlikely to have 100% of either. You will end up with a hybrid system with wired and wireless networking installed. So, what is a smart home and what can it do? The word smart is used to describe when functions within the home can be controlled either remotely, automatically, or through a non-traditional interface. To be truly smart, the functions within the home should be able to be integrated together to allow associations, also known as automations, between different activities and programming of new ways of operating the devices within the home to adapt continuously to requirements. Fundamentally, a smart home should enhance the way that you live, bringing greater security, well-being, and enjoyment. The benefits of living in a smart home are wide-ranging and will be personal to each situation. There are 4 main areas in the home that a smart system adds value. Heating, for example, radiator thermostats and actuators, temperature and humidity sensors, heat and pump control, air conditioning, lighting, remote switching through a mobile phone, a tablet, bespoke buttons, timers, and you can also link your lighting to motion or light levels, and electronic blinds and curtains are also available. Audio-visual, for example, TV and home cinema control, speakers, screens for video calling, and security, doorbells, cameras, motion detectors, door and window sensors, and smart locks. Smart homes can be tailored to suit your needs and can be used for practical requirements to make your home more comfortable, more efficient, and generally more suitable to your requirements. What are the important things to consider in the design? There are a lot of things to consider when designing a smart home. The top 4 influences are your lifestyle. Do you already use a lot of electronic devices? Do you like to have music on throughout the house? Are you away from home a lot? Are you looking for convenient time-saving solutions or ways to reduce your energy consumption? Your home itself. Is it an existing property? Are you renovating or self-building? With new builds and major renovations, there is more opportunity to install infrastructure and cabling. Cost? What is your budget? Can you afford a larger initial outlay? You should also remember to factor in future maintenance costs. And future needs. Are you a grown family? Would you like your home to accommodate multi-generational living? What about changes in your health and mobility? It's worth considering also that technology is constantly evolving and discovering new use cases. So if you already have a room set up for network-connected devices, this can make future adaptation easier. Remember, it is a lot easier and cheaper to install cables during construction than it is to do later on. If you can identify what is important to you and where there are potential constraints, this helps you talk to potential smart home installers about your project requirements. A good installer will want to get to know more about these things so that you get a system that truly meets your needs. They will be able to suggest solutions based on their experience to bring your ideas to life. So, which is better, wired or wireless? We're not going to go into detail on all the design choices, as there's far too much to cover in the time we have. Instead, we'll focus on the primary decision, which is whether to go for a wired or wireless smart home. Note that for both options, you will want to investigate the internet capability of property or plot, as this may present a significant limitation on the ability of the network to stream data. Depending on how you design the system, you might also want to think about backup power, so that elements of your smart home can remain operational in the event of a power cut. This is especially important for hardwired security systems, and may be as simple as systems with built-in batteries or a separate UPS system. UPS stands for uninterruptible power supply, and there are many affordable options available nowadays. Wired systems are made up of Ethernet cabling and hardwired sensors and actuators. Clearly, it is much easier to install these wiring systems during construction or major renovation than in a complete home. Wireless systems can use the Wi-Fi system in your home or other communication protocols such as Zigbee, Z-Wave, and 433 MHz RF. The type of system you decide to go with will determine the exact type of cabling required for a smart system, but you should always install wired Ethernet to your mainstreaming devices like TVs and cinema rooms, and to as much of your fixed devices as possible, like desktop PCs and network-attached storage devices. You're also likely to want to install a robust wireless network system to allow your portable devices like mobile phones, tablets, and laptops to maintain a good connection throughout your home. With the quantity of Ethernet cabling installed in modern homes, it is likely you will need to have a central point where all the cabling comes back to, with a network switch and easy access to your internet router and the main incoming telecom socket. This is likely to be a standard setup, whether you decide to have a majority wireless or wired system, with the only variation being how large a cabinet you will require, which wholly depends on what equipment you want to install. You could, for example, install a whole home multimedia setup controlled from this central location, but with the prevalence of streaming services nowadays, this is becoming less common. But if the internet service in your area is poor or unreliable, you may still want to consider this as an option. For a wired smart home system, this central location would also be an ideal place to install the main control hardware and to route all the cables to. Remember, this central location should be well ventilated and not allowed to overheat, as high temperatures will seriously shorten the life expectancy of your network and control hardware. Some of the benefits of a wired smart home system are no battery replacements. You're likely to specify a single system capable of incorporating all the sensors and actuators, and the system should be less susceptible to signal interference. Some of the negatives of a wired smart home system include relatively high installation costs compared to wireless systems, and it is difficult to relocate sensors and actuators if needed in the future. Some of the benefits of a wireless smart home system are the systems can be installed temporarily, which is ideal for rental properties. The systems are relatively easy to install, which is ideal for retrofit. There are many consumer-grade systems available at reasonable prices, and the sensors and actuators can be easily relocated if needed. And some of the negatives of a wireless smart home system include ongoing battery replacements, the increased potential for various disparate systems that do not easily talk to each other, and the potential for signal interference on the wireless network. With some consumer-grade systems, you may end up with a different app for every system as well, although there are ways to overcome this. With the technology available to us just now and the potential future advancements, it is likely you will end up with a hybrid system where your main sensors, lights, security, and main streaming devices are wired, and you have extra sensors, lamps, and heating controls which communicate wirelessly. One thing we get asked quite a lot is, what's the difference between Cat5 and Cat6 Ethernet cable? In most cases, the world of technology tends to add a number to the name when a new improved design is released. In simple terms, Cat6 cables can support faster data transfer than Cat5 cable and can also support higher power over Ethernet requirements. Your smart home installer will be able to explain more about the choices and specify the right cable for your project. But it is worth remembering that there are various cable types to decide from within the Cat5, Cat6 categories. You have Cat5, Cat5e, Cat6, and Cat6a, which all give different performance. Then you have UTP, unshielded twisted pair, and FTP, foul shielded twisted pair. Again, your smart home installer will be able to explain more and recommend which cables are suitable for each part of your installation. An important note to remember is that there are CCA cables out there, which stands for copper clad aluminium. These do not give the same performance as pure copper cables. They are cheaper, but you definitely get what you pay for with these. I recommend staying away from CCA cables if you can. As you'll have gathered from the discussion so far, there are a lot of ways to create a connected smart home. The technical design choices can be quite daunting, but don't be afraid to ask for more information from your smart home designer or supplier. Our recommendation is to have a minimum of one hardwired network connection in every room, and ideally one dedicated to each television to allow streaming services to have the best possible connection. You'll want to look at the layout and plans for your home to visualize where you'll position the new smart devices to ensure that they have the power supply and internet connection that they need. Things like smart ovens and kitchen appliances are growing in popularity, so don't forget the kitchen in your plans. Sometimes overlooked areas include garages and outside spaces. If you might want to automate a garage door or driveway gate, or add external security cameras, having Ethernet cabling out to these locations is a good investment and easier to do at this stage than when your project is complete. Another growing trend is for smart window coverings. These again are best hardwired due to their requirement for power for the motor more than the control side of things, and can be really invaluable for large windows that may be hard to reach, but where you want to have control over the light levels or temperature in the building. It is important to involve your smart home designer early to get advice on the plans and layout of your system. We would advise to budget a similar amount to what you might spend on a kitchen, including appliances and fitting. Or another budgeting analogy could be how much you would spend on buying a new car. So if you're planning a renovation or build and have budgeted $15,000 for the kitchen, then a full smart home system of matching quality will set you back about the same. The cost is very dependent on what functionality and features you want and the finish you are looking for. If you have a cinema room on your wish list, for example, this will add significantly to the cost. You can keep the cost down by applying a hybrid approach, as discussed above, and by doing some of the work yourself to run the cabling, but this involves a bit more technical knowledge and time input. The wide availability of consumer electronics now means that you can create wireless smart home solutions on a fairly modest budget and add elements to your system as your finances allow. If you're going for a fully wireless design, expect to pay from £10 for a smart bulb through to over £200 for a smart heating starter kit or smart security starter kit. Even with wireless solutions, we recommend getting some advice to make sure that the hardware you are purchasing is compatible and to get help with integrating the devices together to improve the usability of the system. So you probably want to budget a bit more for this design and installation support. Really, like most things, you can spend as much as you can imagine on smart home technology, or you can spend very little. It all comes down to what functionality and what quality you want. Just remember that retrofitting later will likely be more expensive and more difficult than installation during construction. This may mean that you plan for your future smart home and install the cabling and infrastructure to suit, but only install the minimum smart systems you want and plan to add to the system as time, needs, and finances allow. The main trade body for smart homes is the Custom Electronic Design and Installation Association, or CDIA for short. Members of CDIA will have undertaken training to ensure they are competent in all aspects of installation, including health and safety. The CDIA website has guidance for homeowners, which covers in more depth some of the aspects we have discussed in this webinar. You may find that certain smart home installers have preferred brands and systems, or may only specialize in certain areas of the smart home. Others, like TL Tech, might have programming capability as well as electrical and electronic skills that can help integrate different systems together to create bespoke solutions, as well as more standardized packages. We are based in Aberdeenshire in the northeast of Scotland if you're looking for someone in the Grampian region, or we can help recommend someone closer to you. It is always worth talking to your architect and doing some searching, as not all smart home installers and integrators will be CDIA members. So, as final takeaways, start to plan your project early and get input from a specialist. Think about your lifestyle and the design of your home. Don't be afraid of speaking to a range of home automation specialists to find the one most suited to you and your project. Talk to others who have smart homes and ask them what they love about their home and what they wish they'd done differently. And think about your future needs. If this is your forever home, you want to make sure that it can adapt as your needs change. Smart home technology can help to support you to maintain your independence and well-being. But remember, it is often cheaper, easier, and less disruption to install the cabling and infrastructure during construction than retrofitting later.
Excellent. Thank you, guys. That was God. There's so much information, so many things that you need to be aware of. It's quite overwhelming. I mean, that Cat5, Cat6 cabling. I mean, how often does cabling kind of get updated? Does it really matter, or is it, as you mentioned briefly, is it just an upspec of speeds, etc.?
It's the newer versions are really just better designed, if you like. They're better designed cabling. So, for example, a Cat5e cable is capable of 1,000 megabits per second. So that's gigabit speeds.
Okay.
Whereas Cat6 cable is 10 gigabits per second. So and they're better handling, better bandwidth, better frequency ranges, that type of thing. So it's but the thing to think about is that the way we're using data at the minute, it's going to be a long time before you see any real effect on residential networks, especially. We're not consuming that much data that regularly that you're gonna see like if you went for Cat6 cable, that's gonna do you for a long time, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
What's worth remembering as well, if you have a full Cat6 system installed hardwired in the walls of your house, but then you use a Cat5 patch cables to connect, say, your TV to the wall, the fastest you get out of that system is the Cat5 speeds. So
it causes like a bottleneck,
yeah,
doesn't it?
it's like a bottleneck. So the system can only work at the speed of the slowest component, if you like.
I guess it's like anything else. I guess water flowing through a pipe, if it has a restriction at any point, I guess, I never thought of that. I guess it just it applies to electrical cabling or data cabling as well. And is it something that, if you have an upgrade of the cable, I guess for any kind of new builds or anywhere where you're installing a home smart system, can they not just default to the latest standard, or is there always a kind of choice between what you want to put in, or is it always the most up-to-date cabling that we would install?
I suppose not necessarily, because I suppose if you're going by that rule, you put in Cat7 cable, but Cat7 is almost a specialized cable for certain functions. So I would be tempted
or something.
To go with your Cat6A cable, and that should cover you. That gives you the best speeds available at the minute, and it gives you the increased power over Ethernet capabilities for stuff in the future if you need it.
Yeah, so power over Ethernet is quite good for like your security camera systems and things like that. So then it gives you the power as well as the network connection.
Yeah. Okay. And it's interesting, I never really thought about this before, but if you have the ability to plug in as many devices as you possibly can, it takes off the pressure or maybe the potential interference of wireless signals in the house.
Yeah, if you think about on wireless, your cable is basically the air, and there's only so much you can get through that cable at a time. So as much as you can get off of it, the better. And wireless networks are still more affected by interference. So things like even your microwaves are a major source of wideband interference. So I don't know if people ever noticed that if their microwave is on cooking something and they're trying to, I don't know, watch a video on their phone standing next to it, quite often you'll get interference between your phone and the access point.
That's what happened to Game of Thrones last weekend. I had the microwave on at the same time. It's incredible, really. I mean, now that you've said it, I can kind of relate to that. I guess there's all sorts of potential interference is probably inside the home and possibly outside as well. I mean, there's thick walls. Does that have a big impact? I mean, we're in Aberdeen, northeast, and across Scotland, that there's potential to have really, really thick stone walls. I mean, I guess wireless, that really would impact the ability for the signal to go around the home.
Yeah, the structure of the house makes a massive difference to your wireless connection. So I suppose a lot of the older homes here, and if you have thick granite or thick stone walls, quite often your phone just doesn't work wirelessly. So you'll end up having to put wireless access points in all the different parts of the house. So you put more in so that you can get a connection. But yeah, they'll give you ranges on wireless access points, and it might be, I don't know, 100 meters, but that's 100 meters in clear open air. As soon as you put barriers between it, it degrades the signal, and obviously things like stone and brick cut it out even more.
I guess our house is quite a good example. So we are in a 1960s bungalow, but it has an extension that was done in the 80s, and massive thick brick wall between the two parts of the house. And so we've had to put in the wireless access point. So we spent quite a lot of time trying to run cables from one end of the house to the other, which was a little bit frustrating at the time because it's not an easy job to do in a bungalow. That we've put a loft extension in as well, and we didn't put the cables in before we did the loft extension. So yeah, it's kind of learning all these things as you go. But yeah,
you mentioned there
our computer in this end of the house, so we really needed to have that hardwired.
Okay. You mentioned there an access point. I mean, what is an access point?
It's basically your wireless connection, if you like. It's a device that you can get various ones, but you can hardwire it back to your router or your network switch, and that'll be your connection, your wireless connection from your phone or computer or TV or whatever, that then takes you back to the network. So it's kind of a range extender, if you like.
Instead of it talking to the router, it talks to the access point, and the access point is connected to the router.
Okay. Almost like does it repeat the signal and then bounce it further on? Is that kind of?
Yeah, I suppose you could almost picture it as aerials for a radio system. If you had an aerial at the end of a long cable and put it further away, so it's kind of like remote aerials for your network system.
Because I've got quite a long house, and it's trying. I do find that at the end of the house, the house itself, I've got a kind of brick wall, and that conservatory room, it's very difficult to get any kind of signal. So I guess I could probably benefit from some sort of thing that you could either hardwire in, or I mean, do these things can they plug these things in, or is that a really rubbish way of being able to extend your signal?
There's all different types. I mean, the best ones are ones that you can get installed and hardwired with Ethernet cables and properly run in, and then you can even get range extenders that pick up the Wi-Fi signal and send it a bit further. So you just plug them in and they pick up the Wi-Fi and repeat it on again. Okay. And then you get things like that work through the electrical cabling in your house. So depending on, sometimes it doesn't work too well with some houses, but you get one that plugs into the wall and connects to the router, and then the signal goes through your electrical cabling somewhere else in the house. You plug another one in and it works.
Oh, okay.
But I mean, they can do a reasonable job, but they're not the best, obviously.
Yeah, and I guess, I mean, it's quite a little bit. I want to say it's a minefield, but it probably isn't to you guys. You probably I guess the first thing to do, I guess the topic of this webinar is wired versus wireless, and what I'm hearing in the presentation is that, I guess every house is different, every application is different, but if it's probably a half between each, so if you try and wire in as much as you possibly can, and then you can use the wireless for what you can't physically plug in, essentially. And there's all these kind of retrofit kind of solutions that you could potentially get, but again, it might not work, for whatever reasons. But if you can get support, like, so you guys live and breathe this kind of stuff, and it's you could probably kind of cut through all the mustard really, really quickly and understand exactly what's going to work for a household. We had a question in earlier on. We'll try and find it. It is what we're talking about here. Really, we're talking about life's taken over. So this person's got a house full of kids, full of so-called adults. What's the kids? Everyone is using the internet. Are there ways that we can improve this? Our devices are slowing down because of the number of people streaming at the same time. And it's kind of what you're talking about, isn't it? Really, I mean, it's really understanding what is the lifestyle in that house. You may have a household that has very little internet demands, whereas you've got the other extreme, like so these people who have a kind of huge demand. And does it come down to bandwidth? Can you increase the bandwidth, or is it more about the technology that you're using to beam the around?
That's kind of the same as what was said. The key is to get as many of the heavy data users off of the wireless network as you can. So your TVs and things that you're streaming Netflix or streaming movies and TV off the internet, if you can get them onto the fixed wiring system and dedicated systems for them, and then it lets people that are watching things on their tablet or their phones have a better experience. And I suppose, again, it's just choosing the right cabling at the start. You get your best bandwidth. And for anybody it's a very, very, very heavy user, you could potentially put a second internet line into the house, but that's obviously quite a lot more expensive and complicated and everything else. I wouldn't expect, or it's unlikely for your standard residential premises to need a second line unless, I don't know, they've got a lot of people streaming
and maybe
4K.
Poor internet anyway.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. If you've got a poor internet connection to the house, then you're limited before it's even got in. You can put as good a system as you like inside the house, but if you're relying on the data coming in, that's where your bottleneck is.
Okay. Yeah, that's of course the overarching limitation, isn't it? Really, I mean, we're talking about technology in the home, but if you can't get a decent signal coming in anyway, then you're going to be scuppered anyway, aren't you? I mean, I know in some places we do aspire, and I guess the government, Scottish government and the UK government, wants everyone to be connected, but there is still pockets of areas, certainly here in the northeast of Scotland, that are still struggling to get connected to the mainframe, if you like.
Yeah, and you're right about the government, so it's worth looking that up because there is actually funding available. So if you do have a poor internet connection, there are grants available, and you can club together with your neighbours to pool your grants into one bigger pot, and then look and see if there's something that you can do there to upgrade the infrastructure in your area.
Okay.
I think it's £1,500 per property, and then if it's a business, I think the grant is slightly bigger. I think it's maybe more like, is it about £4,000 per business?
I think it's if your speed is less than 100 megabits per second, yeah, which is crazy because we've got the best we've ever had, and it's still lucky if we get 70. And that's only been the last year or so. Up until then, we're on 5.
So it's worth investigating the grants because I know that they've still got funding available.
Do you know offhand, Caroline, what that source is? Is there an internet site that people can maybe look at?
Again, I did a social media post about it maybe about a month ago. I'd need to
have a look. So rural.
My brain is not very good at remembering stuff.
Probably on Facebook somewhere.
Here we go. Grants and funding, OpenReach. Rural premises may be eligible for additional funding through the government's Rural Gigabyte Connectivity Programme. Let me go and put this link into the
awesome, thank you.
feed here. I don't know how to do that. How do I do that? Let's have a look. I'll put it into the comments here because that means that people can get it after this. So I'll link to the government grant scheme. Government's gigabit grant scheme. There we go. I'm not very good at multitasking, so hopefully that works. I think that's kind of pushed
No,
it
hopefully
through.
that's helpful for people as well, because I think a lot of people don't realize, and then they just put up with, the poor internet. I mean, our internet was very bad for a long time, wasn't it? And we actually had a 4G router that we used because that gave us a better signal. But that's a very expensive way to get your internet when you have children who like to watch YouTube.
Yeah, that's the world we live in now, isn't it? I mean, it's, we're starting to move, or at least kind of look at things like YouTube and stream. And if you've got a house full of 3-4 kids, I can imagine it just kind of just slowly kind of dissipates the experience for everybody. So that is hopefully of use to this person. So yeah, it's essentially down to trying to wire in as much as you possibly can, and less reliance on wireless, and then obviously looking at your internet service provider as well to make sure you're getting a reasonable service, because if you're not, then that's going to be a problem from the very, very start. So
and the access points are a big one as well, because we're still, a lot of us, in the stage where you have the one router that you got from BT or whoever your internet provider is, sat in the corner next to your front door or wherever your phone line comes in, and that's the only place the Wi-Fi comes from. So when you're through in the kitchen or up in your bed, you don't really get a signal. And we're still working off that. That's where access points and range extenders come in to make it a much better experience through the whole house.
Mm-hmm. Well, no, my main socket, which was a surprise to me, is in the garage. In fact, I thought the main socket was in the hall. I thought, great, nice central place for the socket, but it's actually in the boiler room in the garage, which is a bit odd, I'll be honest with you. But the BT engineer that came out just a few weeks ago to sort my signal after a lightning strike said this is getting to be quite normal to have it here, and then it makes it more difficult to actually plug in a router and have a centralized kind of place for that. You're already using a second socket, which actually can impact the signal that you get into the house anyway. So it's we've got another question here, if I can find it. Right, here we go. Sorry, got so many things coming in here that I'm trying to navigate through. Okay, we've got one about security. I don't know if you guys know anything about the security of the system. So if we have a wireless system or a wired system, can people actually hack in? Can people actually get access to your data? Is that something you guys know about?
The number one rule with all these systems and almost anything nowadays is the first thing you should do is change your passwords and possibly your usernames. You definitely don't want any default passwords on your system, or somebody eventually is just going to wander straight in. It's like leaving your door unlocked at night. Somebody's eventually going to try to handle. So definitely, number one, change your passwords to something strong and secure if you can. If you use something like LastPass is a good app. It can generate really strong passwords for you and store them on your computer or on your phone so you have access to them. You should make sure and have a good, reliable firewall in place. So your router from your ISP, like your BT hub or whatever, will have a firewall built into it. So make sure that's up to date and active, and you can put additional ones in if you like as well. And make sure antivirus is on your computers and things. That's another way that sometimes hackers find a way in, is if you download something with a virus, then that's them inside your network.
Okay.
A way they can come in.
So the router is the gateway, if you like. Is that the case? If you secure your router, is that almost like keeping the door locked in that analogy?
Yeah, the firewall's built into routers kind of as default. They tend to they won't let incoming signals in. It needs to be instigated from inside the house. So, and then they'll allow, once there's an existing connection going out, then it'll allow stuff to come back in. Some work better than others, but that's the kind of general rule of it. And then you can obviously break that by opening ports or whatever. So leaving a window open, if you like, you can open a port for, I don't know, your Xbox, and next thing you know, that's a breach. So there's ways and means around that as well. But yeah, if you do the passwords, make sure everything's secure. Really, you just want to make it as difficult as possible for any potential nasties to come in, and usually they'll go away and try and find an easier target.
It puts them off because they're like, oh no, if it's been too hard to get through the first hurdle, then what's
Which is a terrible thing to say, but I mean, somebody could easily break into your house and you can have all the security and fancy locks and cameras and everything you want, but they can put a brick through your window. It's trying to deter them and put them off from doing that.
Yeah.
But we've got a blog that Caroline wrote on our website with helpful security tips for your smart home. So it has things that make sure firmware is up to date and that type of thing. So
we'll just have a look for that as well, because that's quite useful, because it's the world that we live in. Unfortunately, there is bad people out there, and I think we just need to be aware of who they are and what technologies they use. It's incredible, really.
Like you hear all these news stories about these people hacked into a security camera in the house and were watching somebody in the house, and it's like, yeah, but you'd never change the password. All they had to do was know what the default password is and keep hitting IP addresses until they find it. So that one thing can make life so much better.
I think what I'm hearing of late is that some of the cars that are getting manufactured now, you can actually open and lock your car from your app on your phone, which to me is quite scary. But I'm sure it's kind of underpinned by some sort of security.
There must be rolling codes or something, but yeah, it's always quite nerve-wracking. I've still not taken the leap to fit a smart front door lock yet.
Oh, you get that as well.
So you can get those, but I think they're maybe just not quite there yet with the technology, to make it reliable enough.
Okay.
I think it's possibly not the security that worries me more than reliability. If it's out exposed to the nice northeast of Scotland weather and things, you don't want it, I don't know, battery to run out or something, and
of course
you have to go scrabbling to find a little bit to get the key in there.
Yeah, because they do have, obviously, the mechanical system will still work, but then you need to find the key in.
Yeah, I mean, me myself, I'm starting to rely very heavily on Apple Pay, and sometimes I just don't take my cards. And you know what? When your battery goes flat in your phone, you're kind of scuppered. And similar with the garage, I've got, fortunately, I have electric garage doors, and I use the garage to get in and out of the house. And we had a power cut. I was like, oh, I can't get in the house. I'm standing outside the house waiting to get in, hoping that the power will go back on in like the next kind of half an hour, 40 minutes. But you're right. If you've got some sort of backup plan B, have the key kind of stored in the garden somewhere or buried.
I put a good smart lock between the garage and the house, so it can work with a PIN code or tags or something. And the main reason for that was your son now being at academy. If he comes home early and we're not here and he doesn't have a key, he can go through that way and still get into the house.
Yeah.
Okay. But yeah, I mean, these things are good, and but I think going back to basics and what we were talking about, and the purpose of this webinar is really to, it doesn't have to be overwhelming. It's like any part of your self-build or renovation project. If you understand exactly what your needs are going to be, then you can plan it very, very much further up front in the process, and it doesn't have to be mega expensive. If you're doing it as part of the build, then it becomes relatively straightforward, and quite efficient way of being able to do it. I think you talked about cost there, making it comparable to your kitchen install, which is actually quite good, and that, I guess the parameters of that is huge, because someone might want a cinema, someone might not want anything at all. So I guess take that with a pinch of salt, but at the same time, if you want to kind of include a budget, that might be the way to go.
And I suppose we kind of almost deliberately avoided talking in detail about the types of systems and any specific systems you could get, like a KNX system or going down a Control 4 route or something.
Yeah,
because
once
you start going into it, there's so much detail and things you can talk about. It would have blown the hour out the water before we started. And one other good point to make as well is it's not just your network and smart home cabling that can affect it. A lot of the trend, especially in this country nowadays, is for your electricity to be wired in a ring around your lights. We just switched the live and the switched live to your switches. But if you're thinking about adding additional functionality in the future, those switches, you really want to make sure you have a neutral wire at each switch location. Then it opens up a lot more availability to have smart switches or something else at that.
Oh, okay.
The majority of them still rely on having live and neutral. There's a few you can get now that don't have neutral, but they always have a little trickle going through them. But you're better if you can have the neutral wire at the switch.
And is that new technology? I mean, because one of the other questions is about, I'll find it. I'm a bit kind of scattered over here with the questions, but ultimately, new technology is coming our way. Are you guys aware of anything even more exciting coming into the home smart world or smart home world? There we go.
I suppose there is the new Ring X line stuff that's coming out very soon.
Yeah, I suppose it's not
new
strictly
technology.
New technology. It's where your Ring doorbells and you get Ring cameras, that type of thing. They're for the DIY market, so do it yourself. What Ring is doing is come out with a new range called Ring X line that's designed for the do-it-for-me market. So getting custom installers to come and install the systems for you. So if you fancy a video doorbell but don't want to install it yourself, you can go to an installer. You get the doorbell. You get a 4-year warranty, subscription to their cloud service to record the videos and stuff for the lifetime of the device, and custom installed, as I say. So and I just went through the training and things for that last week. So it's hopefully that'll come soon. But
so there's not an official launch date yet, but it's coming quite soon. And I guess it's quite nice for a consumer because it gives you that kind of peace of mind. And it's all in one package. So you've got your warranty and the cloud access as well for your data. So it's quite a nice package. So I think that's something that we might see more suppliers doing. So it's less of we're selling you a device. They're going to be selling the service more than the device.
But
really, I don't think there's anything I've seen that's mind-blowingly new and exciting at the minute. But I think what is exciting is how available things are becoming, and the cost is reducing all the time. So there's much more available to everybody. So even if you're not doing a full house renovation or a build, a lot of the kit now is affordable, and you can put it in
and try it out
piecemeal and try it out. Maybe even if you're in the planning stages just now and thinking about it, you can try out various systems and see how they work, and if it's something you put into your build.
And it's quite interesting to understand. There may be insurance benefits as well if you have some sort of security recording and all these other things, and there may be kickbacks in your insurance policy that brings that down, that actually might cover your installation.
Yeah, that's a good point. And that's potentially something that will happen. So it's like a kind of like a smart contract. So it's using the data in the home in an intelligent way to give you the level of cover that you need.
Yeah.
And voice technology, we probably should have a mention to that, because voice control is gaining a lot of traction lately with all these smart speakers and things in the house, and that's something I see becoming more and more prevalent and common. And I think there'll be a lot more devices with voice control built into them. So that's
blows my mind. I love this. It's so exciting. It's so scary as well in terms of things like, for example, security. Someone mentioned that, but actually, I think it's just the way we're going with everything. Really, it's quite incredible in terms of where we're going. And we're running out of time. We've got 4 minutes to go, and I wanted to very quickly, 2 minutes, is have a quick cover of what another exciting project you're involved in. You're taking your skills and you're moving it into an app.
Yeah, so we were just talking about voice assistants there, and we've been doing a lot of work over the last couple of months, looking at how we can adapt to how smart assistants work. We do a lot of work with vulnerable adults and elderly people, and we know how good that the voice assistants are with the built-in functionality, but we were very conscious of, the situation that we're all in and how that might be affecting our well-being and our mental health. And so we wanted to do something that would help. So the last couple of months, we've been building a new custom skill on the Alexa device. So this is a skill that you will be able to enable on your device if you go into the Amazon store. And it's all centered around understanding your well-being. So it's quite nice. It does a little wellness assessment to find out, how you're feeling, and then it gives you some tips around how you can improve that. So things that you can do to, help with like diet and exercise and your relationships, and just gives you a really nice positive vibe. So it's something that if you're trying to get into a new routine and take on new habits, that will support you in that process. So that's the whole idea.
And you're doing a crowdfunder just now. You've actually already met your original target, which is fantastic news. Well done, guys.
Yeah, so
you only launched it a few days ago.
The crowdfunder's been on for just over a week. It finishes on the 23rd of September. Now that we're into our stretch target, so we had an initial budget that would help to finish the testing and get the skill launched in the Amazon store. And then we had agreed that if we were lucky enough to get more support, we're going to use that to help publicize so that we can actually get the skill to the people who need it. So, the people that we work with are, vulnerable adults, elderly people and their families, just helping to give them some extra support when they are being, when maybe they're shielding, if we go into lockdowns and we've got periods where they may not have as much human contact. And it will just help people to look at trends over a longer period of time, so you can see if your well-being is declining and then be able to get help at an earlier point. Because I think sometimes, you bottle things up and you just you think, oh, it'll be fine, I'll just power on through, and you don't realize how bad it might be getting, whereas this is something that can just help to kind of coach you and guide you through.
Person on your shoulder, isn't it?
Yeah.
A little person on your shoulder kind of chipping away and letting
just
you know what you're doing.
Be aware of as well. We're all quite good at blocking it out, but if you're aware of anything that might be changing in your mental well-being and things, then you can think about it and be proactive about it. So it's
so important, and I'd say you've met your target, but there's so much scope for growth with this app. So if you want to get involved, crowdfunder.co.uk/smart meets kind. So
yeah, we've still got some awesome rewards for people. We have these lovely cuddly dog mascots, so you can sign up to get that. Again, just something just really positive and nice that will make you smile.
Brilliant. We're running out of time, or we have run out of time. We're going to have to call it 62 minutes by the time we get finished. But listen, guys, thank you so much for coming onto Scottish Self-Build Renovation 60 Minutes. It's been really quite useful. There's a lot of information there, which is why we did the presentation. It's something that people can watch again or listen to again on our YouTube channels and our Facebook. channels. So people can get in touch with TL Smart by getting onto their website at tltechsmart.com. They can phone the hotline 07825 586 731 or get in touch by email info@tltechsmart.com. Yeah, I mean, that is just basically how you get in touch with TL Tech Smart. So thank you very much, Caroline and Thomas. It's been great. And I hope you have the rest of Sunday to yourselves and the kids have gone to sleep after all that judo.
It's nearly bedtime now.
Yeah.
Oh, and mine too, actually. I'm quite tired today. So thank you very much, guys. And talk to you soon. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.